Hello, and welcome to the Break Free of the Starving Artist Mentality Summit. My name is Kelly Cushing. Today we have Victoria Rubio joining us. Victoria is a success and leadership coach and a career and business consultant who is the owner of VR Success Services in career business advancement. You're in Ontario, is that right?
Yes.
Windsor, Ontario? Sweet. So this is an upscale branding company that specializes in professional services to help their clients stand out as leaders in industries so they can advance their careers and business exponentially. And a mother of 7 children, which just blows me away. It's amazing. Welcome, Victoria, and thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, we're happy to have you. So, Victoria, today we're going to be talking about branding with you. So start us off, tell us more about branding and how to go about that.
Sure. So branding is something that I feel gets overlooked when it shouldn't, right? Because most people think that branding has to do with your fonts and colors and, how your format is presented, when branding is really about building the relationship with your ideal clients so they end up trusting you enough to continue to buy from you, or to even buy from you in the first place, but then continue to be repeat customers, right? So no matter what industry you're in, if you are not successful in whatever you're trying to achieve business-wise, even career-wise, your branding is probably the issue. Like there's something there that's missing. It's like the foundation to everything. I call it the heart and soul of your business. So even though you think you have this amazing product to offer, if your message to your ideal client is missing, if that relationship and connection, it's a trust building relationship. That's what branding is about, right? So if that is missing, then you might be like sending a message here and they're here, or vice versa, and there's no connection, right? So that's why we really focus on developing a very strong branding identity. And of course, logos and fonts and colors, come into play, but that is the surface level. Like the heart and soul of your brand is actually knowing your client, communicating with them effectively, and knowing how to do that in a way that's going to be consistent, right? So that's what the essence of what branding is, why it's so important, and what it's about. A lot of people have a misconception about it, so that's what it is.
So where would you start? Right from the beginning, where would you start with the branding? I know, I've done that too. I've got my logo, my fonts, whatever. But going from there, where do you go from there once you've kind of got?
So, I deal with this with clients like this all the time. So they've already got their logo, they've got their colors and things like that, and that's fine. But I always say start with your message, like who you are professionally and what you're offering and to who. So who are you offering this to? Because it's all about them. Like branding has very little to do with you. It has a lot more to do with your client. So the branding part is built to build a connection and a relationship to your client, with your client, right? So they feel connected to you. So if you feel connected to your logo, but they don't, then there's something missing there. It's not going to help you, right? So that's why knowing your ideal client, if I always say, if you can do this first, let's get your ideal client profiles so we know who we're speaking to, so we know what we want to talk to them about, so we know what their issues are, so we know what their favorite color is, like things like that, right?
Right.
Obviously you're not gonna know what everybody's favorite color is, but I'm just saying you create the exact picture of your ideal client. That's where I would say know your client first, who you want to work with, who you want to buy from you, who your art is for, right? Like, not some things might appeal to a lot of people, other things is a very small niche, right? So, and there's a different marketing strategy that goes with that, right? Knowing who you are talking to. So before fonts and colors and everything come into play, that should be one of the first steps, right? However, sometimes it doesn't happen because people do have their logos and things like that, and then once you go in and look at your avatars and see who it is that you're working with and what they need and what they want and how you are actually helping them, then you can decide, does my logo match my brand? Because it's
Right.
not the other way around. You're not going to match your content and messaging to your colors. It's the other way around. So
Mm,
they have to kind of flow with what you are creating, the experience that you're creating for your client.
right.
So I always say one of the first steps is to know who you're talking to, what you're offering them, what it is that would lead them to buy from you, right?
How would
Because
you
that's
find that out? Where do you go to find that out or figure that out?
so okay. So I, for example, do I help build avatar profiles. Like we'll build, okay, where do you want to be? So like you always start at the outcomes, right? So like what do you want to achieve? Let's say somebody says to me, well, I'm an artist and I want to sell 10 paintings a month. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like I'm just gonna make it up.
Yeah.
And then it's like, okay, so tell me about your art. What is it? Who is it? Who buys your art? Do you know? If they don't know, okay, well then typically who would you think buys your art? So like we kind of go step by step to kind of discover who the ideal client is. And it takes research, market research. It does take looking at the type of, in this case, art that you do, who is attracted to that type of art. Okay, so now that we know who's attracted to that type of art, okay, who is that individual? Who are they? Where do they hang out? What do they like? And I have a whole questionnaire. It's long. It's like 40 questions long. So we go
Wow.
through all of this together, or not necessarily together, but like we go through this and really get down to pinpoint, okay, so we might have 1, 2, maybe 3 different types of people that like what you have to offer. Okay, so now when we have profiles, then we can create messages for them, right?
Mm,
And it makes such a difference. It really makes such a difference because when you're trying to build a relationship, it's like a intimate connection. And even though you're not just connecting to one person, they want to feel like you're just connecting to them. When you
yeah.
are speaking to them or when you're showing them something, they're like, oh, that's for me. And with art, it's pretty unique because many times artists do original artwork. So it will be for one person, right?
Mm,
Like it's so like the creative process is very similar to putting your thoughts on your medium that you're using for art, but it's kind of like that too when you're trying to create a brand, right? Like the brand is you're taking everything that you want to achieve, but it's a step-by-step process to build this intimate connection to your audience, right? When they feel connected to you and that they can trust you, um that you become like somebody that they'll either buy from, recommend, refer, tell people about, share. So it's not just for one purpose and one reason, right? Like
right,
you
right.
having a strong branding message to your ideal client, they're either going to buy from you, refer you, tell people about you, and I do that too. There's a few artists that are on my like Facebook and stuff, and every time their stuff pops up, I'm like, oh, it's so beautiful. And every time somebody talks about, something that they like, I'm like, oh, you gotta check out this guy, because he's worked really hard on his brand and his messaging and the way that he does things. And it's like, it makes a big difference, right?
Right.
Now, is he the best artist in the world? I don't know. I'm just saying this is what I'm seeing, right?
Mm,
And to me, he's amazing. There could be somebody like 1,000 times better, but if it's not being presented in a way where the audience is receiving it and to say, hey, I see what he's doing and I love it,
right.
it's not going to matter, right?
Right. Yeah.
So it's all they know is what they see. All
Yeah.
anybody knows about you is what they see. So you can have a really nice painting. You're also working against the algorithm, right? So
Hmm.
every single platform out there has their own algorithm, right? So consistency is key. So once you've developed your messaging, once you know exactly what it is that you're going to be doing, then we put it into calendar format. Then we know, okay, this is what we're going to be talking about. This is how you're going to get the momentum going with your brand. Then it takes consistency, right? You have to be consistent. It takes an average of 7 times for somebody to see or hear something for them to remember. 7
Wow.
times.
Wow.
So you might think you're boring people with putting your message out there, but chances are they're not even seeing it.
Yeah, that's true. I
Like,
mean, there's
yeah,
times that I think, oh my God, I'm just doing repetitive, but you're probably right. And you're yeah, if they're not seeing it, if it's only one time or two times,
Yeah.
then
Yeah, and it's partly due to the algorithm. Like, you don't control what goes on somebody's homepage or what they see in
Mhm.
their feed, right? So if you only post it once a month, for example, it might just show up in a couple of people's pages for that one day, but
Right.
it's not something that everybody's going to see. You can also post the same message in various ways. So it might you don't have to be redundant to be repetitive and to be consistent, right? Like, you don't have to put the exact same thing up over and over and over again. But having your message consistently out there will help with the algorithm issues. If you're not consistent, you get put to the bottom, right? You don't show up in
Right.
people's home pages. And let's say you have like a burst, and I've seen this all the time. You have a burst where you're like, I'm gonna post every single day, and I know exactly what I'm gonna do. 2 weeks, you're there, you're doing it,
Mhm.
you know? I mean, usually it takes about a month or two to build up that momentum, so you can get set to be shown on people's home pages.
Right.
And then you're like, this sucks. Nobody's liking my stuff. I'm not doing it no more, right? You go right back to the bottom, and then it's harder to build
Yeah.
yourself back up, right? So there's so many techniques that come with building an effective brand. Like, at first is to actually develop the foundation for a strong brand, and then the implementation of that, the
Right.
consistency. And then you can start to coast a little bit. You start seeing, okay, people are paying attention to what I'm doing now. There's recognition that comes with that. Then you can start working on growth and scaling, right? So, but it is a process,
Mhm.
it doesn't, nobody, like, I would say at least 3 to 6 months to build a cohesive, strong brand, right?
Really?
And then keeping it consistent is super important.
Right. So would you say
So
once a day, or how many
at
times would
least,
you?
at
At
least
least,
once a day, at least.
because I've
Yeah.
heard different things. I've heard once a day to 7 times a day. It's like,
Yeah,
wow,
it
7 times a
depends,
lot.
honestly, who has time to post 7 times a day, but anyway. Um, I would say at least once a day, and reels, videos, those are all the thing right now. Like,
Right.
and you also have to know your platform. Like, we do all this for people, right? We do their branding and the social media and all this stuff, but you have to know the platform. Like, what platform likes what? So Instagram right now, it's all about reels, right? Like, if
Mhm.
you're not posting reels, you're probably not getting shown on anybody's homepage,
Oh,
right?
really? Wow.
So
Okay.
yeah, so reels are important, right? That's, most of what well, not most, but a lot of what we do is reels. Like, we do reels and videos for people because we know if we're doing your social media, we know Instagram, you're not gonna get nobody looking at your stuff if you don't have reels. Reels are super important.
Mhm.
Facebook, they're important, but not as much, right?
Okay.
So people will still see your post on Facebook,
Right.
whereas on Instagram, if you don't have reels, it's not gonna get shown,
So are
right?
Facebook Lives any better than just having posts, or is that not?
Facebook Lives are good. Facebook Lives are good depending on what you're using them for, to attract attention to an event or to an activity or to something you have going on, or to offer like because some people I know do like weekly Facebook Lives. So it really depends on what it is that you're trying to achieve. It's always about the outcome, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Hmm. It's a lot. So is every platform different then, like in how often you should be posting, or like, I mean, there's so many different platforms: TikTok, YouTube, Instagram. I can't even think
Yeah.
of all
So,
of them. Facebook.
so I mean, I would say no matter what, especially if you're starting to unfold your brand, once you have your cohesive brand, in place and know your message and know what you want to have out there, what you want to share, then you can start posting once a day on everything, right?
Mm,
Just to start getting that momentum going with the platforms that maybe you haven't really been on that often. Do that consistently for a month, right? You can like, we always look at the end result. What happened? Let's see who's liking your stuff. Let's see their demographics. You can see all of that, right?
right.
In the statistics. And then you can start strategizing, right? So like, the first month is like getting yourself out there consistently every single day, right? Then we start strategizing. Oh, look, you know, it says here 50 to 70-year-olds were your biggest audience in the Netherlands. Like, you'll be surprised at things that come up when you start looking at the statistics, right? So we're like, okay, so now we are going to say, okay, so some of this content we will gear towards this audience. Like, there's so many different techniques that you can use to grow, but the most important aspect that I would urge anybody who actually wants to stand out as a leader in their industry, like what's my biggest promise for what I do, is to really focus on that brand messaging, right? Like it's everything. It's everything. Yeah. And you could even have like the most unattractive colors, but and people would still trust you more and want to work with you more than somebody who has beautiful colors and no branding message because they're not connecting to their audience. And I've seen it a ton. I've seen people put in so much money on their colors and they're like, yeah, I don't know what's going on. It's been a year, nobody's working with me. And it's always to do with the core, the heart and core, the heart and soul, the core of the business, which is your brand message, your connection strategy, your relationship building capability, and being able to unfold that effectively on all your platforms, right? So that's like the biggest thing.
Right. So would you say it takes a month? So how would you know? You wouldn't know until a month is over, until you know that you're sending the right message or you're sending the right branding?
No, so the whole point of building an effective brand is so you start off sending the proper messaging for what you want to achieve, right? So that's the unfolding of the brand. You started. That's why I said initially to get to know the client that you want to work with before you start to market anything, right? The client that you want to buy your art, or the client, the type of people you know like your art, the client that has bought your art. Like let's really dissect who they are and make sure we know who we're talking to. This is who likes your art. Okay, we're going to develop messaging for them. So we develop the messaging for them, and then you start to unfold it. Now, the unfolding aspect, which is like putting things out there, like I said earlier, it takes a while for people to start recognizing you.
Right.
It could take up to even 3 months to do it consistently, but it always works once you have the right message. Now you can start looking at the statistics just to make sure, okay, we're talking to our ideal client and this is what's showing up. Let's see how close we are, right? Sometimes there's small things that are not consistent, but that's just to tighten up your strategy, right? So you can look at the end of every single month if you want to and be like, okay, so this is working. We're talking to this person, but really you want to kind of see a nice curve, like upward curve over the months, right? First month is still super new. Like, even to unfold social media calendar, even if you're posting 7 days a week, if it takes 7 times of seeing something, like how many times are you posting the same thing? So like, because the branding also involves yes, what do you like the right message, but there's 3 to 5 main points for what you're going to be offering. And it's not sometimes what you think that you should be talking about, right? So depending on, what type of art, then we can cover, okay, you have your person, you have what you want to say to them. Okay, now how are we going to do that in 3 to 5 consistent topics that you're going to stick to, right? And then we're going to have subcategories. You plug all of that into a calendar, right? Then you start to unfold it. So like in 1 month, you're not going to be able to do all that seven times, right? So it takes a little bit longer, but it's worth so much because you don't have to come back to the drawing board, a year later when nobody's buying from you, right? Like it actually makes a big difference.
Yeah, for
right?
sure.
Yeah.
So if there's artists that do different kind of, maybe abstract and realism or whatever, or focuses on two different kinds of, or maybe even three different kinds of, would they have different avatars for each
Yep.
type?
So I don't think even if it's not an artist, like there's not one person that only does one thing. So once you know how to develop like your client profiles and the messaging for them and everything, then it becomes easier to, when you start growing, to develop more, right? And just know how to talk to them. So if you're going to be presenting a certain type of art, you're going to want to talk to the person that would potentially want to buy that type of art or refer you to somebody that does. So yes, you would just create different ones.
Okay.
And the strategy that goes with it, right?
Right. It's interesting. So, but if there's an artist that maybe is just starting and hasn't really sold a lot of their art and maybe hasn't kept up on that kind of person or know that much about them, where would you start with that? Like, how would you find those people, or how would you know who they are even, and what kind of message you would send to them.
So you wouldn't necessarily have to have sold anything to develop avatar for your ideal client. And you can even develop an avatar of your ideal client before you start any sort of business, right? You could be like, okay, who do I want to work with? No. What are, so it's extremely doable to create your ideal client before you've sold to anybody. Your ideal client profiles are not don't necessarily have to be based on anybody that you know or that has bought from you. They're based on what you want to achieve, who you want to work with, what it is that you want to accomplish with your art. Who would be your ideal client? If you could pick your ideal client, who would that be? Is your art going to be $10 a piece, or is it going to be $1,000 a piece? There's two very different avatars there, right?
Oh, for sure.
So the message is going to be very different to sell a $10 piece and $1,000 piece, right? And they're both extremely doable to do. It's just you're going to be appealing to a different market, right? So it all starts with knowing the outcomes that the artist in this case wants to achieve, presenting themselves as a professional artist. That's usually where we start. Let's talk about your presentation, who you are, who you want to be, what you want to portray. Okay, let's move on to who you want to work with, right? And like I said, they don't have to have sold anything. It's just having those conversations, seeing the outcomes. Okay, we're going to develop your client profiles based on what you want to achieve. Right. And it's very doable. And I mean, it's very smart to do even before you start, because it makes a big difference. You're not just out here trying to sell to the world, because you're not for everybody. I'm not for everybody. You're not for everybody. And that's okay. You're not supposed to be. There's like billions of people in the world. Right. So if you have, 10 loyal customers or 100 loyal customers in a month, that's more than enough. Like, if depending on what you're selling, right? It's better than trying to talk to a million people who are not going to care about what you have to offer, right? So that's why developing that message, being clear on who you're selling to, who you want to sell to, is golden for business, right? I would really encourage, if you want a thriving business, not just a hobby, to actually treat it like a business. Right? There's a main difference. And trust me, because I can do a million things. I've had tons of hobbies. Okay. I can sew, crochet, knit, paint. Like, I've done it all. And I've had side hustles since I was younger. I've always been an entrepreneur. But the difference when I actually started growing an official business was I treated it like a business. So if you want to have a business, you treat it like a business. You invest in your business. You know what's going to be returned to you. You get mentorship. If there's something that you're stuck in, like, don't be afraid to seek out help, right? Don't be afraid to even pay for the help. And I know sometimes that's scary. That was scary for me too, if you're just starting. But if you want to get out of the, I guess this summit is like the starving artist mentality, right?
Yeah.
So if you want to get out of that, then you have to step into something else. What is that something else? So where do you want to be? So then you start thinking about, if you're here and you want to be here, you want to be selling your art successfully as a business, then you're going to have to start thinking as a business owner, not a starving artist, right? And a business owner does make investments. A business owner does get help with their work. A business owner does, network with people that can assist them to grow, right? So there's a shift of mindset that happens, but also of action. Like, you actually have to grow from where you are to and go to where you want to be, right? And that takes a little bit of risk sometimes, but it's usually always worth it if you are committed, right? If you stay committed.
Would you think that's probably the number one thing that keeps people not moving on in their business and not really going ahead with their business, and keeping them like almost like a hobby instead of a business?
Yep.
So just
because
investing.
There's a big shift in going from something you love to do, but then you don't know how to sell it, to selling it. And if you ask almost any successful business owner, it was never on accident. It was always intentional and on purpose. And that's because that's when they realized that they had to take this seriously as a business, like anything else. I'm trying to think of an example. Let's say you have to go to an interview, right? And you don't have an outfit. You're
Right.
gonna go buy an outfit. You're gonna make sure your hair is done. You're gonna make sure, your your resume is done, whatever, right?
Mhm,
You're gonna
mhm.
practice. Like there's you prepare,
Right.
right? And so it's not just, very rarely you're just gonna be walking around and then somebody's gonna be like, let me buy your art. You know what I mean? Like
Would that be
it's
nice, eh?
that'd be amazing, everybody be rich, right? Yeah, no, most often people don't even know you exist.
Mm,
So if you want to develop a business out of your art, then you have to treat it as a business,
right.
You could be the most, and I tell people this all the time because I've seen it and it breaks my heart. You could be the most qualified person in the world. But if nobody knows about you, it's never going to matter.
Mhm,
Because it matters to you and your family. I'm not meaning it doesn't matter. What I'm talking about as far as a business, or as far
mhm.
as like career growth. If nobody knows about what you're doing and your intention is to sell and to grow and to have a business, then it's not going to help you by not developing this, brand, because that is what you're trying to do. A successful business has their own brand, and their brand is specifically for their ideal client.
Mm,
So we see brands all the time. There's some brands that some people love and others hate. Well, the ones who hate them, it's not for them. They're not speaking to them. They're speaking to their clients, and their
mm,
clients love them. So that's all that matters, right? Same with art. And with art, I think is very unique because everything's original, everything's like, specifically done, obviously because you like to do it, but it's not for everybody. So then even more so, more of a reason to
mhm.
really know who you are talking to. Who do you want to buy your art?
Yeah.
Developing that element of professionalism. Yes, you're a beautiful artist that can create amazing things, but if you want to have a business, then treat it more professionally, and actually put in the time, effort, energy, even money sometimes that it takes to actually get it off the ground. And it's really doable. It's really doable to have a successful business in any industry, including art. But I think it comes with recognizing that certain things, you need to do certain things that you may not be used to, may be comfortable with initially, but that will make a huge difference in the outcome of your business.
Right. But you're right. I mean, every person would like a different piece. Like every piece is different and it wouldn't speak to one person where it would speak to another. And each piece could be different. So how do you work around that? Like, because that is kind of two different people or two different, or would it kind of be on the same avatar?
I think it depends on what it is. Because then we get into specifics, if I'm working with a one-on-one client, we would talk about all these things in detail. Okay, what do you do, what do you make, like let's see what you have. Even if you're doing different things, and then you could have more of a company, right? Not just like you as an artist, but so
Right.
there's so many things that could be done, right? You could develop a brand for your company and then you as the owner, right? And in this company you have A, B, C, D, E, F, G, right? And then we would develop messaging for that, right? Some people may do different things, but they have the same style of art,
Yeah,
right?
true.
So then the same style of art, we would work with the marketing message for people who like that style of art, right? Even if it's different mediums and different things that they do. So it really varies on what it is that you're offering. But at the end of the day, the process is very similar. Whether you're selling peanuts or cars or knowledge or art.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Well, how would
As
how
long
would
as
you know if you need to rebrand it? Would you?
is it working? If it's not working, if you're not selling, if you're um just feeling like this is never going to work, then it's probably a good time to look into that.
Right.
Because, like I said, it's just you're not reaching the people that you could be reaching.
Mm,
And if it's not working, what you're doing is not working consistently, and you're like, yeah, it's been 6 months, it's not working, then I would say that's a really good time to maybe talk to somebody about it,
mm,
maybe somebody that knows like about business, about branding, be like, what do you think? Rebranding could change your life. It really can. If what you're doing is not working, let's try something else, right? And in this case, I see if somebody comes to me as a business owner, regardless of industry, they say, yeah, I've been doing this and nope, like it's not working.
mm,
I'm like, okay, then I guarantee it's somewhere in the branding foundation. Something's crumbling there, right? So we're gonna look at it. Okay, this is what's happening. Let's rebrand. Let's start over. Not start over with like, let's throw the old business to the ground. No, let's start over with the right way, right? And actually help you to develop something strong.
Right.
And it makes a big difference, a really big difference once you actually get the ball rolling.
So what do you think about things like surveys and quizzes and that kind of thing? Do you think that helps find your avatar as well, or is that
So
useful at all?
you can send surveys and quizzes. I mean, if you're online anywhere, yeah, those are fine. We call those part of market research. Like um sometimes when my clients are trying to find out who they want to work with, they might put out a question out there like, hey, if you wanted your house organized, you know, would you ever let anybody in your house to organize it? Why or why not? And see what people are saying. Like, yes, you can always go and ask questions if you want to. Or let's say if you're trying to sell your art, you could even put a picture up there, say, hey, what do you like about this? What do you not like about it? Would you buy this? Blah, blah, blah. Like there's so many different tools that you could use to do some market research. But honestly, the first starts with identifying what you want to achieve, right? What you want to achieve with your art. What is your goal? Because that's ultimately the most important thing. If you just
Right.
want to do art because you love it, but you don't really care about selling it, that's a beautiful hobby that you can have forever, right?
Yeah.
If you want to sell your art and be a recognized artist, and there's a whole different approach to that, right? So knowing your outcome, what your desired outcome. So your desired outcome could be, I want to be a millionaire with my art. Okay, and that strategy is going to be very different than somebody who, I don't really care. I'll just go to a few Christmas shows and,
Right.
and sell my art there,
Right.
right?
Have fun or whatever. Get out.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
So,
But it can
and
be that general. It can be just that general. I just want to be a full-time artist and make a living and like,
yeah, your
yeah.
outcome can be general, but your outcome will get more concise once you start working toward it. And I mean, I've always seen that. So, and sometimes too, you might see other ways to grow, because being an artist or being any type of entrepreneur is, you already have a creative mind to want to do this. So
Mhm.
you might start selling art, as you start moving along your business, you may be like, maybe I can add, I can start a store selling art supplies. Maybe I could start teaching classes. Maybe I could start talking and giving workshops. So there's so much that you
Oh,
can do,
so much. Yeah, for
right?
sure.
As an artist. So it's not only about your art, you know, you could, be like a keynote speaker,
Yeah.
people pay thousands of dollars to go talk because of what they did. So the possibilities are honestly endless, but you have to start with the foundation, with your
Right.
branding foundation. That is what will help you stand. That's what will help you not, falter when things happen, and things always happen in business.
Yeah.
Um, I was on this other show the other day, and we were talking about the ups and downs of business. And I'm like, it's just because people want to give up when they have a down. And I promise you that in business, it's always like this. Okay. Always. So there's
Right.
not like, yay. No, it's always like, yay. Okay. Yay. Okay. And I'm like, I've learned to, like, when you're up, you celebrate. When you're down, you strategize. Like, you just, okay, let's look back. What didn't work? Okay, let's move forward to what's gonna work now.
Right.
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 But
Just
in
like life,
all those, yeah,
up
yeah.
and down.
And but in all those up and downs and all those falls, if you have a really strong foundation, your business will still be there.
Mm.
Your business will still stand. Maybe you did something that didn't work. Maybe the one painting, you're like, nah, yeah, that wasn't a hit. Okay, but your business is still strong, is still there, still recognized. You still have a strong, solid brand that everybody's already gotten to know. So those mistakes, they're not going to cost you too much, right?
Right.
You don't have that. Sometimes one of those falls could cost you everything, right?
Mm.
So there's so much that goes into building the strong foundation. And I totally, like, I almost want to like beg people, just do it. If you want a strong business, trust me, just do it, because it's something that will help you forever, like as a business owner, right? It's not
Right.
just like a one-time thing, right? It will help you for a long time. And then the more that you grow, now you know what to do, you can develop those further. You can add more avatars, you can talk, you can develop a messaging sequence or messaging system for another audience. You can open a store. Like there's so much that you can do.
Oh, totally. Well, even online, there's so much you could do. I mean, people
Yeah.
have workshops all the time, sell their workshops online, have free workshops online, sell
Yeah.
books. It's just, it can
Yeah.
be enormous, really.
Yeah. And that's a beautiful thing about it. Like when you have that brand message, it helps you. That's what I mean. It's the foundation. So it helps you to scale and grow once you have it developed to do what all those things that you just mentioned. And almost everything is going online. So yes, you can do physical things, but you can also do things online. You know, I do things online all the time. Me and you are speaking. You're in Vancouver, I'm in Ontario, right? I have clients in the UK, right? I have clients in the US, I have clients in Mexico. Like there's endless possibilities, right? But before that becomes a reality, establishing your brand is super important.
So before you go on to doing, like artists go into doing workshops and things like that, you think they need to have that brand built for a certain amount of time?
You can do workshops if you want to, because those will play into, if you're already doing workshops, then yes, that should be included in your branding messaging, right? Who are the workshops for, right? Who do you want to come to your workshops, or who is already coming to your workshops? And we just strengthen that. So no, what I'm saying is, like, if people are doing something, but it's not selling, then there's an issue with the branding message that we, get to uncover. So you start selling, because you don't ever want to feel like you're selling. And that's a beautiful part about having a strong brand. Strong brand is developing a relationship. It's not about selling. So you develop a relationship and a bond and a connection with your ideal client that they will want to buy from you. You're never up here like, buy my stuff, buy my stuff, buy my stuff. Sometimes you have a promo or something, but it's most of the messaging will come from the connection, not sales, right? Even though that's what will get you sales. But the communication is not going to be salesy, because that just feels yucky to most people. And I don't blame them, right? Like I don't want to sit around selling all day. But you don't have to. When you have a strong brand, the brand sells for you.
Yeah. Actually, I heard somebody speaking and it was more about serving people. And I like that. It just took that yucky, gross, salesy part away from it, that you're serving them and you're, doing something for them and helping them instead of selling them.
It is. And that's why I say, like, your brand is all about your audience, your customers. So when you develop a brand that serves them, that really is for them, they feel that and they reciprocate and they want to work with you, or they want to recommend you, or they refer you, or they share your stuff. Like there's such a difference. You don't have to go around sharing it to every group and people that you have nurtured that connection to do it for you, right? And that sells more than you sitting there, buy from me, buy from me, buy from me.
Yeah, for sure.
Right? Yeah.
Right, for sure. So I think we're almost out of time. Is there anything you want to end with, or anything you want to add to conclude our day?
Just that if you're serious about your wanting to grow a business, then treat it as such. That's probably like the best advice I can give, because there's like a big magical shift that happens when you start treating something like it's supposed to be treated. It gets returned to you, and it gets returned to you tenfold. So I started my business from a dining room table doing resumes, and it has grown exponentially. We have a building, we have a studio, we have offices. We work with businesses all over the world, and I treated it like a business. Everything I made went into my business. Once I made that shift from just doing something I liked to doing something because I liked it, but I wanted it to grow. I knew what I had to do to grow. So plant those seeds. Don't be scared. It's going to help you. If you truly desire to have a successful business, treat it like a business, and it will be returned to you. It will come back.
Plant your
So
seeds.
that's my message.
Nice. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Victoria. So I'll just mention you wanted to offer our audience a free gift. Can you speak to that?
Yeah. So I know sometimes people don't really know where they're at with their brand or anything like that. So offering a free brand audit. It's totally free, no obligation. You fill in the form, it asks you questions. We go look at all of your stuff, and then we give you some amazing feedback on what you can do to improve it, or what we feel is working against you, what's working for you. And it really helps you to see where you could improve and how you could actually develop a strong brand. There's also a free brand checklist that you can download, again, free of charge, no
Wow.
obligation. But for anybody that's actually interested in exploring their own brand and how they can actually make it into a lucrative business, yeah, it's a free audit. It's half an hour. It's totally worth it.
Yeah,
So
sounds like
if
it.
you're
Wow.
interested, I would take it.
Oh, that's awesome. That's super generous. Thank you for that. Yeah, you guys, you gotta check that out because that sounds amazing. So I'll put the link somewhere. I don't know where, but somewhere. I'll see it below. And I just want to say thank you again, Victoria. It's been a pleasure. It's been really great talking to you. You're so knowledgeable on branding. It's amazing. And I just want to thank everybody for showing up and joining us today. You have a great day.
Okay, thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for coming. That was great.
Bye.
Bye.